This airplane just lost control due to a malfunctioning sensor. The pilot had no choice but to eject as the plane free fell and exploded next to a busy road. The follow-up investigations concluded that the incident was due to an unfortunate sequence of events that could have been easily prevented. While the sensor was the root cause of the problem, the other contributing factors had nothing to do with the sensor, or as we like to describe it, they were not what you think. The X-31 program consisted of two experimental Rockwell jet fighters. It was the first and only X-plane program that involved international collaborations between the United States and Germany. The goal of the program was to demonstrate the value of in-flight thrust vectoring coupled with advanced flight control systems. X-31 had 3 thrust vectoring paddles that could redirect the exhaust flow to control the airplane's pitch and yaw. An advanced flight control system that relied on a variety of sensors allowed the aircraft to fly at high angles of attack where conventional aircraft would stall or lose control. And this gave X-31 a huge advantage during close-in air combat. 2 test programs were run, one by the US Navy and one by NASA. In total, over 550 flights were conducted with a supreme safety record. On January 19, 1995, NASA was conducting the very last flight of their X-31 ship number 1 when the unthinkable happened. It was a routine flight, a flight that didn't push any boundaries. A flight with an experienced pilot and crew conducting routine tasks that were completed hundreds of times before. However, there was one key difference in the configuration of X-31 compared to the previous flights. The original pitot tube, which supplied the flight computer with airspeed, had been replaced with a new type of sensor known as a keel probe. The new probe could provide more accurate airspeed readings at high angles of attack, but the downside was that it was more prone to icing. In addition, this new keel probe did not have a pitot heat that could prevent the buildup of ice. But the lack of heating was not viewed as an issue because X-31 was not supposed to fly in conditions that are prone to ice buildup. Also, at the Edwards Air Force Center, where the flight took place, icing is normally not an issue, but January 19, 1995 was a special day with high humidity at higher altitudes, which was conducive for ice buildup. 5 minutes before the disaster, the pilot noticed there was some moisture in the air and decided to turn the pitot heat switch on, and then radioed that back to the control room.
Okay, remind us what the pitot heat off. Remind me to put it off. Copy that? Yeah, ready? The pitot heat now have the financial firm. Good stuff, lads.
While control room engineers communicated among each other that the pitot heat was not working, it was not communicated to the pilot until 2 minutes later. And when it was communicated, it was stated in a way that underplayed the importance of the issue.
And now pitot heat. Alright, I'll leave it on there for a moment. Yeah, we think it may not be hooked up. It may not be hooked up, that's good. I like this.
At that time, neither the pilot nor the test team realized the gravity of the situation, as airspeed data was critical for the flight computer to maintain the stability of the aircraft. Moments later, the ice started building up in the keel probe and began feeding wrong readings into the flight computer.
And if the airspeed is off, we 277 knots at 28.
This could have been noticed by flight control engineers that knew X-31 would normally have an airspeed of 140 knots at 20 degrees angle of attack. Yet, when the pilot radioed back that he was flying at 207 knots, no one caught it as a warning sign. More worrisome was that the chase pilot also did not catch the incorrect airspeed, for the simple reason that he could not hear any of X-31 pilot's transmissions due to hot mic issues. If the chase plane's pilot had heard the communications between X-31 and the flight control, he could have easily spotted the airspeed issues as they were both flying at the same speed. But it gets worse. The test team on the ground believed that X-31 was a robust system, as during the design phase and hazard review, it was determined that the plane could fly perfectly fine, even if a variety of sensors had failed. And that was true. The airplane could fly without an airspeed sensor, as it had 3 backup flight modes in case various sensors malfunctioned. But the pilot had to switch to R3 mode, as R3 mode would have removed the incoming airspeed readings from the flight computer as an input, which would have allowed the airplane to be controllable all the way through to landing. Unfortunately, neither the pilot nor the ground test team realized that there was a problem with the airspeed data, even though there were numerous warning signs. You may be wondering why there was no alternate airspeed indicator inside the airplane. Well, there was one, and it was less susceptible to ice buildup. The indicator was located by the pilot's right knee, but he just never looked at it. And then came the final test point of the day, a simple automatic control response test. The pilot pressed the button and expected the plane to behave in a certain way, but nothing happened.
3, 2, 1, go.
Doesn't do anything. And nothing happened because the faulty airspeed data was out of range, preventing the flight computer from executing the test. The flight control team yet again failed to recognize this warning sign and just instructed the pilot to return back to base. As the airplane started its descent, due to the pressure difference, the faulty airspeed data that was being fed into the flight computer also started to decrease. The faulty readings decreased to 150 knots, then 100 knots, and eventually to just 48 knots. Obviously, the airplane was flying faster than that. As the flight computer was receiving the incorrect readings, it made a number of adjustments that made X-31 unstable. The plane pitched up. The pilot tried to prevent it, but realized that he had lost control and ejected from the plane.
Okay, NASA 1, we have an ejection. NASA 1, do you read? Now we copy, As sport, NASA T584 has ejected the aircraft is descending over the North Base area. I have a shoot. Sport, NASA 850, how do you read?
Only as the airplane was tumbling to the ground did the flight control engineers realize that the pitot tube must have been frozen. It is ironic that X-31, which had conducted dozens of much more risky test flights prior to this day, was destroyed during the routine flight. According to NASA, out of the 10 contributing causes of the crash, 6 of them happened prior to the day of the crash, and only 4 of them happened minutes before the crash. A big contributing factor was that over the life of the program, many engineers had come and gone. As locations and staff changed, nobody really understood the design and the risks associated with X-31 to the level that they should have. Smaller things also played a role, such as a lack of a sign on the pitot heat switch to indicate that it was not operational. But X-31 could have been a victim of its own success. Having conducted hundreds of successful flights, it led the test program staff to be less sensitive to certain warnings. If everything worked fine before, why shouldn't it work again? Complacency seeped into the team.